Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Science of SaaS Startups podcast. Today, I'm talking to Itamar Rogel. Itamar is the co-founder and chief product officer of Affogata, and they're a leading customer intelligence platform. Itamar, welcome.
Hey, great to be here.
So I just want to kick things off just by asking a few questions to help the audience get to know you a little bit. So kick things off. So what would you say is your biggest professional weakness?
My professional weakness personally?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, I would say my biggest professional weakness is perhaps networking. I'm pretty bad at intentional networking. Some people are more methodical about it. I just connect with people and I love it, but I'm not very methodical, and it's probably a weakness.
Yeah, okay, so something you could do better. And
Yeah, for sure.
If someone dropped $1 billion into your bank account, into your personal bank account, so that you didn't have to work anymore if you didn't want to, what would you do with your time?
Well, I know it's right, but I don't think I would change much, because I think, if I had, that kind of amount or whatever it is, I think what I would do is both invest in companies that try to build and innovate the future, and start and work in companies that innovate the future. So I would still be a working entrepreneur, just like I am now. And of course, I would probably also invest in other companies, because you can only have one full-on dedicated thing at a time. And investing in other startups, I think, is a great idea to kind of promote the things that you want to see happening in the world. So I don't think it would change much for me. Of course, it would just give a lot more firepower.
Yeah. So you're not doing this for the money, then you're doing it because you love what you do every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated question, actually, and I want to be, it's important for you. I don't like when people say, "Oh yeah, I went and I started this business and whatever," and I was looking for ideas. Like sometimes you hear these stories, like someone's telling you they iterated through, dozens of ideas, and wasn't doing it for the money. Look, I think it's a business. You ultimately are there to create value. It doesn't mean that it's driven by greed or that you're all out. Oh, I just want to make money. Of course, you want to create value, and money is a way to quantify value, not a great way, right? Of course, we all know. I think there's a lot of obvious downsides to money as a quantifier of value, but I think ultimately you want to create a business. You want to create a business that delivers value for your customers, for your employees, for your investors. So I don't think you can really just say, it's just my professional opinion, and I know it's a philosophical thing. I don't think you can really say, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this business and it's not at all for the money." I think hopefully you're doing it first of all because you're enjoying it and because you believe in what you're doing. But I think, ultimately a business is there to create value, because that's how it becomes sustainable. And I think it's a key element, right? If a business is not sustainable, obviously it can't deliver a lasting change or lasting value in the world.
Okay. So obviously over the last 18 months, 2 years, like travel has become a lot more complicated for everybody. But if we remember that world 2 years ago that existed when travel was easy, like where do you enjoy traveling to? What's your favorite country?
So I love traveling, and honestly, I think I've also had questionable experience of traveling in the new normal, right? And I have to say it's sad for me. That's like travel was kind of a pain sometimes anyway. We need to go through airport and security checks and all of that stuff. So now on top of all of that, you have the different rules of every country with quarantines and tests. And it's a bit sad, actually, because we took something that's a great way for people to connect, and and creates a lot of meaning in that sense. And we made it more difficult than it already was. So that's definitely a shame. But I love traveling. I think it's just a great way to explore, cultures and connect with different people. So I really try. There's no one place, right? I usually, if I travel to a place, unless I have a specific reason, I won't go back to it. I just love, kind of throwing darts on the map and exploring different places. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope this isn't the new normal for a long time in terms of travel, because I think that's going to break a lot of hearts if it is. And just to kind of finish off this piece, so what would you say is the best piece of advice that you've ever given or ever been given? It could be professional or personal.
So that's a great question, right? And I would say the best bit of advice that I can give is probably that there's no one way to do it, because it's kind of like makes sense, right? Oftentimes people would look like for some company that they see that, oh, I really like what they've done, or a person who've achieved something that you greatly appreciate, and you would be like, okay, that's their playbook, that's how they did it, and you try to mimic it, right? It's very natural. But I think it's important to know that it's like there's a lot of ways. There's more than one way to skin a cat. There's a lot of ways to build a great business or to go about the career that you want to have. There's so many of these different experiences, and I think it's important to take in and learn from the best. I mean, the conclusion shouldn't be that it's like, oh yeah, there's so many different ways, so I'm just going to ignore all the lessons learned of those other people. But I think it is important to remember that you'll have to forge your own path, and hopefully you'll become your own story that you later share with others. But I think it's an important piece of advice, because oftentimes we as humans, it's natural to kind of try to stick to like, okay, this is the playbook, this is the path, and it could be too rigid, because your story is going to be your story, not anyone else's.
And in terms of kind of finding like your own path, is that just kind of experimentation and trial and error? Because a lot of people get really hung up on failure and making mistakes. How do you push through that?
So that's a great question. And an observation, I don't remember where I heard this first, but I think a great observation is that, in a way, the most intelligent people are the people who, obviously they deliberate a lot, right? And I think, in a way, thinking too much, and I'm almost stopping myself as I sound like some kind of self-help cliche, but it is a thing, right? It is like when you try to optimize too much, find the easiest way to do something, it can cause you to kind of freeze, get into that analysis paralysis mode. And I think it's important to balance out having plans and having an end goal in mind with being open to experiment and to fail, because sometimes it's much better to experiment quickly, arrive at a few dead ends, than just stand in a place and kind of deliberate, okay, what is the best way? Oh, will this work? No, maybe that would work. It's all in your head. And I think it's important to have that experience because it would serve you even, as you iterate, as you try the next things. And of course, it's not an excuse, quote unquote, for not having a plan or not having a clear goal. I think it's important to have a clear goal in mind, but then the way to go about it, you should probably experiment. And to be clear, this is a very delicate balance, right? Actually, it's why I always feel very apprehensive about giving advice, because of what I just said earlier, right? Like whatever, the person who's asking advice, their path is going to be different from what you know or what I know, right? And oftentimes it's a very delicate balance to strike out. And for example, a lot of the times, especially as entrepreneurs and people pursuing different paths, you're pursuing a path or an idea or something, and you encounter some resistance, right? Always there will be some resistance, like whether it is in the market, in some technical elements, and whatever it is that you're doing. And you have to really be very keen, very accurate of like in the point of, okay, how much do I push through? And where is the point that perhaps, what I got enough input to know that, what, this path is a dead end, you should try something else. And that's an extremely delicate balance to strike. And I've not seen a recipe that you can use to make the correct decision. It's so that's why I'm always kind of feel very apprehensive about giving it us, because it's so situation specific. And ultimately we all end up judging things by the results, which is not really the good way to judge them. Right? You want to judge things by the process, because results also depend on luck and factors we don't control. And I think having a great process of learning, that's ultimately a deciding factor, because if you have that process down, it can take a shorter amount of time or a longer amount of time. but you will see the fruits.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting, actually, that process of learning and also kind of implementing those learnings, because there's so many things that I've learned and then I never use ever again. So I think it's really important to have that process to actually implement things as well. So if we jump into Affogata, so do you want to just give us an overview of the company and what you guys are trying to do?
Of course. So Affogata is a startup company. I'm one of 3 co-founders, and what we do is we provide customer intelligence, customer insights to brands, right? And basically, what it means, we take unstructured data from basically your customers talking with you or about you in any relevant channel, right? So it could be your support tickets, it could be conversations with customers, surveys, social media, reviews, really any place that you can think about, like, specific communities, really any place that you can think about that customers are already there talking about your business or your product or your competitors, or giving you feedback, or, just talking amongst themselves in a public forum, of course, and conversing about your product or your market. And the thing is, there's so much of this data. When you have brands that are, either consumer facing or they kind of have a mass audience to them, there's so many great insights that hide out there, right? Imagine for like mobile apps, for games, for financial services. There's so much information out there and insights hiding in those conversations. And we take in all these things, bring them to one place, and deduce insights from them, right? Insights that are meant to enable decision making. For example, what is working in a product, what isn't. We released this new feature in the last weekly release. Do people like it? Do people don't like it? Do they not like it? Things like, what are the reasons that people maybe choose other solutions in the market over our own solution? Kind of answering these questions using all this customer data. And that's a really critical thing for brands to do, especially in the, we talked about the new normal. So more and more things are being done online, right? People make their purchasing decisions online. They evaluate competitors online. They receive support or ask questions online, and all of that. But it's even without, the pandemic, right? It's just a trend that's pretty much unstoppable, because, it's convenience. It's removing friction. And the benefit of that, it generates a lot of data that you can take in and use to make decisions for your business, to be better, to deliver a better service, to build a better product. But the challenge is, of course, how do you analyze all that data, right? It's a lot of unstructured conversations. It's people talking in very arbitrary ways. There's a lot of different ways of expressing yourself, like over Twitter or Discord, in a forum or whatever it may be, or in a review, or someone talking to one of your your company's support reps or whatever it is. They would be expressing things in a different way, right? It's a human language. It's very varied. It's very nuanced. And in order to take all this data and extract insights from it, you need to have a pretty good system in place. You need to apply a lot of things to really take all this qualitative data and turn it into something quantitative that you can work with, right? Taking, whatever it is, like tens of thousands of customer conversations, and extract something like, for example, let's take a game, for example. Oh, we introduced this new character in the last update, and people dislike it. They feel it's ruining the balance in the game, right? Or we added this new set of levels. People think it's boring. It's pay to play. They don't feel it's like an actual challenge. Or for financial services, or people move to our competitor because they just feel the interface is more engaging. And even though it's, we offer investment services, they offer investment services, people just enjoy the competitors' experience more than our own, or whatever it is. So that kind of insight that really empower you to make decisions. And the last key point that I'll allude to is you use the data that's already out there, right? So I think every business, wants to listen to their customers. Everyone, we all want to be customer obsessed and really taking the customer input and apply it in the best way possible. But the key with some of the things that exists before what we provide basically is, you would have, for example, a user research team do a survey or do a focus group, which is, of course, great tools. The problem is there's a long lead time, right? Like, let's say we want to do a focus group and see, hey, do people like our product? What do they dislike, etc. So, you have to bring in those people. It's going to take a while. It's also very hard to get a good sample, right? People who actually represent not only your users, but potential users. all of that. So it's, it's both kind of inaccurate. It's very hard to get it to be super accurate. It's going to take a long time bringing those people, doing the process, extracting meaning out of it. Whereas with a platform like ours, you basically connect to conversations that are already happening. Excuse me. And as such, they're also more authentic, right? Because they're happening when you're, metaphorically speaking, you're not in the room. You're not there asking them questions, like in a focus group, for example. But these are conversations that people have anyway. And these are feedbacks that are happening anyway. So if you really take in all those things and analyze them in a way that makes them coherent and removes the noise, which is extremely important when you deal with open information, right? Because obviously there's a lot of noise out there. You can get really great insights. You can get them at a very high pace, like basically empowering, weekly releases. Like we're talking about companies that are digital, that have digital products and digital experiences, and they make tweaks and updates all the time. And so they really need something that enables them to get that feedback in a manner that's supportive for the pace that they want to work on, and the speed of them responding to customers, right? Because if you ignore those signals that customers give you, your competitors may be listening, right? Because the data is out there. So that's really what we do, and we think it's something that's going to be core to almost every organization in the future, because we think listening to your customer is obviously a very basic thing to do. And what better way to do it than to plug into all those places that people are already expressing themselves and taking in the best insights that you can from that and applying them.
So I was on a 2-hour seminar this morning, which was all about obsessing about customer experience in the recruitment industry. So absolutely right. Like, customer experience goes for everybody. And in terms of that, like you mentioned, there's a whole range of different unstructured data sources that your customers would have. Like, how much work on your side goes into kind of putting that all together? I mean, is this like a self-service model that anyone can do without any technical background? Or do you kind of work with a company to develop those data sources into something which will kind of fit into your system?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So our approach to this problem is, firstly, we're a data platform, right? We're a data platform, and we can very easily connect to pretty much any relevant source. Sometimes there's like custom sources or internal sources that companies have, but our uniqueness is really in being able to ingest and process all these different sources without any work from the customer's end. So the integration is really, there's no work there in terms of technical work. We don't sell the solution in a self-service way. We do like working with customers to onboard them and help them get the most value out of the system. But that's just because, we want it to be properly integrated in customer processes. And to be honest, in the future, we may switch to a service model. It's very possible, because that's the beauty of the system, right? What we believe in is that the insights and the value should not be mediated by anyone. A lot of the times, other services or other approaches, the insights would be mediated by an analyst or someone who goes and it's their thing to, do some analysis work and provide the results. We believe in really providing the experiences in the platform, right? They're built in the platform that allow people to self-serve and get their insights immediately, right? So if let's say I'm a product manager, let's say it's at a fintech company that, that provides, everywhere I give the example of like maybe investment services. So let's say that's what I do, and I'm a product manager. I can go to our platform and run a query and get immediate results, right? Let's say we implemented whatever it is, automated investing last week, right? It's a new feature. And now I want to see, okay, what do people say about it? Are they using it? If they're not using it, why is that? Are they confused by it? Whatever it may be, I can go to the platform and immediately get answers, right? And not only that, I can also monitor things. I can also have the platform let me know when there's like an anomaly in user feedback or discussions, or when there's something kind of bubbles to the surface. So there's a lot of ways to consume those insights. But the key point is that, I can, and any other stakeholder in the organization can go and self-serve and get the answers that they need. Because, we want, it's one thing to have the data. It's one thing to extract insights, but it's another thing to make the impact, right? And we always ask ourselves, okay, we know to bring those, we know to bring all these data sources, we know to extract those insights, but where do we, how do we ensure that it has impact? And that's a lot of different things, right? It's like what you asked about, it's being able to serve and immediately get answers. and it's getting the right experience for different stakeholders in the organization, right? Some stakeholders want to be able to go and pull the information, right? Oh, I have a question. I'm wondering about selling a product. I'm going to run a query and get instant results. Other stakeholders, for example, a lot of the executive level, they prefer getting things by push, right? They're not going to do any kind of they don't have time to go around and deeply explore insights in the platform or anything like that. They want to receive real-time alerts to know when there's an anomaly happening in conversations or in things that are happening with the product, or to get weekly reports and such. And the platform provides all of that. We really look at the different jobs to be done of stakeholders in the organization and provide an experience that really matches that and brings them the value that they need. Because like I said, going back, kind of circling back, is the key point is to make the impact. So we want the data to be experienced in the right way. And we want the final thing that I'll mention is we want the person receiving the insight to have the conviction in whatever it is if we're showing them, right? Like if I come and tell you, hey, do you know that whatever, people going to your website, they think whatever, they get this and that impression that is not really what you're after. If I tell you that, you don't really have a reason to believe me, right? Even if you think I'm very smart and I have a lot of data. The reason you have to believe me is only if you really experience the data. So what am I basing on this claim that I'm showing you? And then maybe you can think, you know what, he has a point. I can see what people are saying here. Maybe I should make an adjustment. So really having that conviction and showing that everything is based on data and everything is quantifiable and makes sense, that's a key point in what we do.
Yeah, and obviously being able to trust in that is kind of the secret source of data, because data on its own means nothing, right? And unless we can kind of trust in the insights that it's giving us.
Yeah.
So if we jump to talk about the startup life a little bit. So as a company, you've raised a seed round of $5.5 million so far. And over the last 12 months, we've seen the levels of investment in the software industry increase hugely during that time. Can you give us a sense of how you found the fundraising process?
Yeah, for sure. I think we've all seen definitely there's a very aggressive, it's a very aggressive investment environment, right? It's very easy nowadays, for better, for good or for bad. It's very easy to get ideas funded. We actually, when we raised it was, just when the kind of the coronavirus era descended upon us. So it was a bit before this bubbly era. And of course, we've been making good progress, and we've definitely been, receiving inbound interest and all of that stuff. And I have to tell you, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's great that ideas are funded, and I think it's obviously a good environment for that. But ultimately, you want to build a lasting business, and cycles come and go, right? And I'm not making predictions. I think it's extremely hard to make correct predictions. Right? Like, I don't think are we in a bubble? I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't say we're in a bubble, but in hindsight, if everything crashes down tomorrow, then people would say, "Oh yeah, well, obviously,
of course it was a bubble."
Right? Yeah, of course, yeah, exactly. So I think without any trying to be predictive in any way, I think we can definitely agree that, well, there are cycles, and cycles are part of the nature of the business. So if we're in a cycle up, there will be a cycle down. And I think what's important is knowing that you want to build a lasting long-term business, and that there will be down cycles. You want to have investors that are there for the long haul, that are really aligned with your vision, that understand what you're building and can add value and support you in that path. And I think it's very easy to be tempted in this kind of times to like, the numbers or the headlines or etc. And I understand that it's very human, it's understandable, and of course, it's a business, so you should do what's best for your company. But we definitely try to keep in mind that, as we talk with potential partners and we receive some inbound interest, we want to have partners that are aligned with our vision, that are experienced, that can offer some value to what we're building, and that we know will be with us even if there's a down cycle in the market and things don't look as promising as they're now, for the industry in general, right? Not for our company specifically. And I would definitely advise that to anyone, because I think you want to think for the long haul, and you want to think how you survive those troughs as well.
And obviously, this isn't the first time you've been involved with a startup. Like you've done several of these previously. I mean, what do you feel are the kind of big mistakes that kind of perhaps a first-time founder could easily fall into? You know, maybe that you've done previously and that you've kind of learned from in the past. You know, what would a good learning experience be in terms of avoiding big mistakes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think entrepreneurship has changed a lot, right? Because even if you go back, even 10 years, right? Let alone if you go back further than that, uh, today their body of knowledge around startups, building companies, everything is much more kind of orderly and even institutionalized in a sense, right? I think there was a time where building a startup was like a weird thing. People would advise you not to do it. It's dangerous, and you would really have to be kind of a contrarian or, at least somewhat contrarian to be like, no, no, yeah, I'm going to start my own company. Today, I feel like, and maybe it's just, maybe I'm in a bubble as well and, like cultural bubble, right? And that's what I see around me. But I do feel that today it's way more of a common thing. It's a straightforward thing for a person to
Like
do.
a career path.
Start a company. Yeah, it's almost a career path, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's it's obviously a plus because we see a lot of exciting things being done, right? I think it's also entrepreneurship can be lonely, and honestly, if you look at it as a cost benefit function, I think oftentimes it's not the right rational decision for a person to do, right? I think when you're starting a company, one of the it's almost, some things should involve friction, right? Not everything should be easy. Some things should involve friction because it's not the right thing for everyone to start a company. Like I think so. The best advice that I can give, I guess, kind of as I'm thinking about this, is maybe yes, even if in this cultural moment, starting a company seems like a career path, it's a no-brainer, it's a cool thing to do. I think when you start a company, you want to have a very clear reasoning and a very clear vision of what you're trying to achieve and why you're doing it. And the beauty about entrepreneurship, it's like if you're meant to be an entrepreneur, you don't care about anything that I said anyway, right? You don't care. I mean, you just know that you're going to do it, and it's not a rational decision even. But I think it's oftentimes, there's a lot of different career paths, a lot of different ways to contribute and to build exciting things. And I think there's a balance there between, starting new things and helping things grow, which I think is very important, right? I think as a society, we want to have a lot of people starting things. We want to have see a lot of exciting ideas being funded and experimented. But we also want to see these things grow. We want to see great businesses grow that enable innovation from from the inside businesses. I think we do see more and more, and I think that's a good thing, of course. And there's a balance to strike there. So I think as someone looking to start a company, I would definitely, I guess, if I simplify, first answer your own why. Why am I doing this? And if you have a great answer, that's great. And if you don't, maybe think about some other things that you could possibly pursue. And the beauty of it is like I say, if you're meant to be an entrepreneur, you don't care about anything that's said anyway. So
yeah,
that's
and we talked a bit earlier about how much investment's going into the industry, and obviously the result of that is like a massive war for talent in terms of being very, very competitive around kind of getting new talent into the company. So have you given much thought about how you approach that? And, do you have any kind of plan for success in terms of attracting the right people to the company?
Yeah. I think the market has definitely become extremely competitive for talent. And, ultimately that's also a good thing, right? I think, for example, for us, we definitely, that kind of pushed us and it's also, I guess people say it's also, you could say it's part of the new normal, but it's not only that, it's also the competition for talent kind of pushed us to construct the company in a way that supports having talent from anywhere in the world, basically.
Okay,
and I think that's a very good thing, right? I think
like
that's
remote
a change.
first,
Exactly. Because you really, if there's a great person out there that you want to have on your team, but they, whatever, live in the wrong city or the wrong country, that shouldn't be a thing, right? You want to work with great people everywhere as much as is possible, right? And I think that's definitely a key point for us in kind of planning this out. And I think it's great that people have more bargaining chips in this market, right? Because there's all these funded companies and whatever they need the good people. So people have more bargaining chips, and I think it's fair. I think it's fair. I think it's good that great people and good talent have options. And I think as companies and as employers, it's on us to do great things, to provide a great working environment, and beyond all the whatever what you could call superficial things, or the different perks and whatever. I think ultimately what we see is that people are attracted to challenges, to places where they feel they're being heard and they can really evolve and they can lead. And I think really our experience is that these are the key deciding factors. Of course, people care about perks, it's fine. And obviously it's totally fine, right? You should care about material things. It's totally reasonable. But I think what we saw that actually it's the key deciding factors for the people we want is actually the challenge and the team and the culture. And I think it's great. It just shows, I think it's really a reason to be very optimistic about the future in general for me.
It's the beauty of startup land, isn't it? Is you're never short of a challenge when you try to start up company, because
exactly.
You're going to get challenged in different ways every day. Well, it's been really great having you on today, Itamar. If people want to get in touch and discuss Affogata, is it kind of email or LinkedIn or website? What's the best way to reach you?
Sure. Yeah. So all of the above: LinkedIn, email, Twitter. So on Twitter, I'm Itamaro, Itamaro, or my email. I'll just give out my email because I'm happy to hear from anyone, even just thoughts, ideas. Always happy to have interesting conversations. So my email is Itamar, Itamar, @affogata.com. And yeah, we'll love to hear from people.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I really appreciate your time today, and be really interesting to see how you guys grow over the next few years.
Thank you, Ben. It's my pleasure.
Okay. Thanks.